Okay, somebody has a question. Oh, I think he just wants to cheer me up so I won't be whipping myself with the thoughts that instead of Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, it should be the boring Bhikkhu Bodhi.
So it's not.
Please.
It's a question about the story you told about the king who saw the dancing girl with the bangles.
Yeah.
You said it's from the Sutta Nipāta commentary.
Commentary, yeah.
What's the name of that commentary?
There's only one Sutta Nipāta commentary, but it's the commentary to the sutta on the rhinoceros horn.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of little stories. I don't know if I have it on this computer. Let me just see. Okay, so one summer a certain king of Varanasi had gone for a semester. Nearby a concubine was grinding some kind of sandalwood. So on one arm she wore a single golden bracelet, on the other two bracelets. So the two clashed together while the single bracelet didn't clash. Having seen this, looking at the concubine again and again, the king reflected, so there are clashes when one lives in a group, but no clashes when one lives alone. And then the king, on that occasion the queen was fanning the king, and she thought that the king has fallen in love with that concubine. So then she dismissed the concubine and started to grind the sandalwood herself. And she had many golden bracelets on both her arms, and as they clashed together, they made a loud noise. So the king, even more disenchanted, developed insight and realized Pacceka enlightenment, even while he was lying on his right side. And then the queen approached with the sandalwood in her hands and said, "Let me anoint you, great king." And the king dismissed her and said, "Go away, don't anoint me." She asked, "Why is this, great king?" And he said, "I am not a king." And the ministers also addressed him as great king, and he said, "I am not a king." Well, so that's just the story. He said, "I'm not a king." The way it should go is that he said, "I'm a Pacceka Buddha." And he's still wearing all of the royal ornaments. And then they say to him, "But that's not what a Pacceka Buddha looks like." And then he exerted like his determination in his mind, and then his royal ornaments all disappear. And he appears with monastic robes with a shaved head. and then he rises up into the sky and flies away.
Is that one of the powers, able to
Yeah.
strip the royal garments away?
Yeah.
I got a second question, Bhante. A little clarification. You said there's only one commentary to the Sutta Nipāta.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit what is the Nisiddha?
What is
It's called the
Nidesa?
Nidesa, thank you.
Yeah, the Nidesa, it's a kind of exegetical text on 2 chapters of the Sutta Nipāta. It's not actually a formal commentary, but it's a commentarial style piece. It's included in this in the Sutta Pitaka.
Thank you, Bhante.
Oh, okay, Simon.
Bhante, I actually kind of quite confused about this Pacceka Buddha. What is that concept of this type of Buddha relevant to our practice? I mean that what kind of person will become a Pacceka Buddha?
Okay.
And it's kind of also, it's kind of beyond my comprehension that how come a person following this type of path will become a Pacceka Buddha?
Yeah. Actually, several points here. Okay, what is the relevance? I think for most people, even for most Buddhists, it's probably not so relevant, except that what it shows is that there is a possibility of achieving enlightenment during the period between Buddhas, when the Buddha's teaching is not being disseminated, being expounded. So maybe the principle is that the truth is always available, even when it's not being formally taught. So somebody who investigates, sharply enough is able to penetrate that universal truth, because it's actually the truth about the nature of things. Then as to what kind of person, on the one hand, I have to say, in all of my years as a monk, I've known very few people, maybe almost none, who have actually said, my aspiration is to become a Pacceka Buddha. I have that kind of vow or determination. But I've known certain people that fall into that kind of stereotype picture of the Pacceka Buddha, or the characteristic picture of the Pacceka Buddha. The type who likes to keep pretty solitary, doesn't mix much with other monks, and has very strong will, very strong determination to practice, has a strong inclination towards the ascetic practices. So that is maybe the character type. It's said that of Mahakassapa, this actually is in one of the Chinese Agama texts. It's said of Mahakassapa that if he didn't meet the Buddha, he would have become a Pacceka Buddha at some future time. So if we are familiar with the character of Mahakassapa from the suttas, you could say he fits, even though he was a Savaka, a disciple of the Buddha, but his character is that typical of a Pacceka Buddha, sort of strong, almost forceful personality, very much inclined to seclusion, doesn't like to make any kind of concessions in order to socialize with people. He scolds Ananda for being too sociable. Yeah, so we say Mahakassapa sort of fits the template of the Pacceka Buddha, even though technically, because he learned the Dhamma from a Buddha, so he's not a Pacceka Buddha. In fact, I know, several monks in Sri Lanka, actually several Western monks in Sri Lanka who also fit that template, though they haven't said, my determination is to become a Pacceka Buddha, but they have that kind of character.
Bhante, you mentioned earlier the Paticca Pacceka Buddha could have been have got the information or whatever the experience of the Paticca
Yeah.
and all of a sudden become a Pacceka Buddha. But isn't Paticca the fundamental part of the Dhamma that is preached by your Buddha?
Yeah, but a Pacceka Buddha realizes the Dhamma taught by the Buddha. It's just that
No, I
he
know,
realizes
but
it.
there was no Buddha at that time.
Yeah.
And Dhamma is not known. But
The Dhamma is not taught, but the Dhamma is always present.
always present, yes.
And so the Pacceka Buddha investigates the chain of dependent origination.
So he on his own comes up with
Yeah,
the
on his own he
Paticca
comprehends it, yeah.
Oh, I see.
But that connection between the Pacceka Buddha and dependent origination, it's not prominent in the Pali tradition, but we find it in the Sanskrit tradition,
Oh, I see.
certainly in some of the Mahayana sutras. Maybe it goes back earlier. That it said that the Shravakas they specialize in realizing the Four Noble Truths. The Pratyeka Buddhas realize dependent origination, and the Bodhisattvas realize emptiness,
Thank you.
or the six paramitas.
Thank you.
Okay. John, is that your name?
I'm not sure I heard you correctly. I think what you said was the Dharma is always present.
It's always
not
available,
taught.
yeah.
It isn't taught.
No, I said that the Dharma as the nature of things is always potentially available. There's the Dharma that's taught, that depends on the teaching of a Buddha. But Dharma as the principles, impermanence, suffering, non-self, conditionality, that is always going on. That is always available.
So it's possible to become enlightened then? That's what a Pratyeka Buddha is, without the teachings?
Yeah, the Pacceka Buddha becomes enlightened without relying upon the teachings of the Buddha, just by investigating on his own.
Thank you.
Okay, Stephen?
Actually, my question is only maybe tangentially related to what we spoke about today, so if you don't want to get into it, I understand. But we've talked a lot about today, and I hear often one vows in a future existence to be, or in a previous life, he was.
Yeah.
But I wonder, to what extent is that somewhat almost like a wrong view in the sense of this I that's carrying through? I mean, I guess my question is sort of how much of what I am now will be around in a kalpa? And why would I even want to think that way?
Yeah, there's no I in the sense of a self that continues. And so there won't be a Stephen Sass in the future that attains something. But the mental continuum, the stream of consciousness is what goes on. And then that determination or resolution is what will continue within the stream of consciousness. And then it will reappear in a being who becomes like a successor to yourself in future lives.
So is it more like the sort of like a propulsion I give now will sort of manifest later?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
But it's a propulsion within the same stream of consciousness that constitutes what you are now.
Thank you.
Bhante, just a question of timing. How long is there between one Buddha, the disappearance of the Dharma, and then, how often does that sort of happen, I guess? Because between Buddha and then Maitreya, what sort of period will there be an ability for Pacceka Buddhas to arise?
I think it's supposed to be pretty long. I don't remember the figures, But it's said that in this particular cosmic aeon in which we're living, it's called the glorious or auspicious aeon because we have 5 Buddhas. There are 3 predecessors to Gautama Buddha. Vesabu, Kakusanda, and Kassapa, predecessors, then Gautama, and then the 5th will be Maitreya or Maitreya.
Yeah. Okay.
But then there could be cosmic periods in which there's just 1 Buddha or 2 Buddhas, cosmic periods in which there might be no Buddha at all. So it's said, I mean, these are all like things that, speculations that come in
It's a lot of theory.
commentarial texts.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we can take one more question, then we'll have to stop. Oh, okay, good. But first, then we'll take 2 more questions, if they're short.
Just a quick question, actually. You were saying that there could be a Pacceka Buddha in another corner of the universe, but could there be an actual Buddha in another corner of the universe
Oh, sure.
this time?
I was sure these things. Yeah.
Okay.
Bande, I have a question about David Datta.
Yeah,
He learned the Dharma during the time of the Buddha Gautama.
right.
So, but then how can he become a Pacceka Buddha in the future? So he will forget everything he learned in that life?
Of course, a question like this is beyond my capacity. But I would assume for him, okay, to have been born into the same family as the Buddha, for him to become a monk, he practiced very diligently in his early days as a monk. He acquired probably the jhanas and the various samadhis, and as well as psychic powers. So he had a lot of spiritual potential. His main fault was his envy and his ambition, and so that led him to hatred towards the Buddha and towards his collapse. And so I would think that all of that good potential that he had still would remain within the stream of consciousness.
But he already learned the Four Noble Truths. And
Yeah, of course that he's not going to remember. But he has that sort of background experience. But as a Pacceka Buddha, then it's said that he has to discover for himself. He doesn't learn it from anybody else.
in that particular life.
In that particular life. Yeah, but he's learned it already as Devadatta under the Buddha.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have to end now because I have some other things to do. So we'll end with 3 half bows.